they did not have enough starting pitching to win in a conventional way. They had to strategically punt games in order to win these series.
All right, I'm going to do this because I take a lot of pride in plugging everyone's work and where you can read about them, follow them, the whole deal. And I feel like on a day like today, when we're dressed up ridiculously and Andy's not, I'm just going to plug the book right off the jump because he automatically has to be way nicer to us if I do it right at the beginning. So it's called The Last of His Kind. It's a biography of Clayton Kershaw. It is really, really good literature. It is very relevant right now, of course, with the Dodgers winning the World Series, as we talked to senior writer Andy McCullough. Happy Halloween, man. How you doing?
I'm well. I may, with my internet connection, be using the costume of a man from 2004. So we'll see how this goes.
You have Yankees internet? Nice.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Dial up Andy McCullough. Okay,
Yeah.
so what do you think about the Dodgers winning the World Series and, at least to some extent, trying to grab a little bit of an underdog mentality throughout this October?
Yeah, very funny for a team with Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and the most wins in baseball to claim themselves as underdogs. But I will say, like, going into this postseason, there were a lot of people who felt like they did not have the pitching and they did not have kind of championship mettle. I mean, they had, crashed out in the first round the previous 2 years, hadn't won a full season World Series since 1988. And as you saw from like the way that Dave Roberts had to manage in 7 game series, they did not have enough starting pitching to win in a conventional way. They had to strategically punt games in order to win these series. And so, given that degree of difficulty, like, do I think they were underdogs? No. I mean, again, like the talent is with the talent. They were the best team in baseball, but you can understand why they were able to sort of like cloak themselves in that armor, right?
Take us into your computer without us hacking into your computer, because last night you're writing different articles. If people don't know, writers write, in the third inning how the game's going, in the
Yeah.
fifth inning how. Write it. Tell us what the article sounds like when Garrett Cole goes 7 innings and the Yankees win 5-1. What's your narrative of not just the game, but how the series is moving back and how long of a flight it is across the country to LA?
Oh yeah, I wrote a very poetic lead about how Aaron Judge arrived at the World Series at 8:18 p.m. and with one swing, showed that he's back, and so are the Yankees. So that will never see the light of day. It was a very challenging game to write. I kind of tweeted about it during the game as you guys are showing now, like an absolutely miserable experience, just because you're trying to my job is not to enjoy the game. My job is to try and like explain it for people who maybe who didn't get a chance to watch it, or want to sort of relive it afterwards. And you're trying to condense both what's happening on the field and like the context of history. And the Dodgers winning that game is like. It's such a dramatic way to end this season. What Walker Buehler did was incredible. But if, the Yankees had won as the way it looked like they were going to, 5-1, 5-2, when Garrett Cole pitches and, shows why he's every bit the $324 million man, and Judge is woken up, and all of a sudden the Yankees are the first team in the history of baseball down 3-0 to force a game 6. Like very, very different. So kind of, challenging to manage those sort of two, narratives as you're watching the game for sure.
Andy, how much should we put into the fact that these two teams go after the same players very frequently, and the Dodgers seem to have won very frequently lately? I know Yamamoto is probably the headliner from last year, but this trade deadline, I saw multiple people that I like to read and who break a lot of news say that the Yankees even were interested in kind of going after Tommy Edman, Michael Kopech, and of course the Jack Flaherty story was well covered. I mean, the Yanks didn't think that medically he was fitting the bill to be a Yankee.
Well, I mean, he also got 4 outs last night, so like they might not have
Yes.
been totally, wrong about sort of his readiness. But yes, I think what it shows is that like they're both very well run baseball operations departments who sort of value similar things. I think that, Edmund in particular is like the platonic ideal of a Dodger, and that he's, a switch hitter who can play all these different positions. He can do a lot of different things, and he works as a very complementary piece. He would have looked really good on the Yankees, who, as we saw in the series, very much could have used some defensive competence and versatility. And also say like the Dodgers were very interested in Garrett Cole. They offered him a package worth like $300 million. A bunch of it was deferred. But yeah, like these are teams who compete in the same markets of players. The top tier of players, but also as you go through, like they look at these same types of talent that is in the sort of the middle tiers, and they value the players like the Edmonds, or they go after relievers who can do certain things that fit what they're trying to do with their bullpen. And so the Dodgers certainly have the leg up in recent years in some of these acquisitions, and we'll see how real their interest is in Juan Soto. They can certainly afford him because Shohei Ohtani has created a new sort of financial paradigm there. But I don't know, whatever. We will see where Soto goes. I think he's going to stay in New
Yeah,
York. No one cares
yeah,
what I
and all.
think.
Hey, we're going to talk about it for the next 2-3 months, but also Roki
Yeah,
Sasaki, if he somehow
for
gets
sure.
over
Yeah.
here, I'm sure they'll compete for him. My follow-up global question on the sport itself is: we're in a copycat league. Why doesn't every team value similar things as these two?
I mean, I think that they do to a certain extent. What a lot of the other teams will tell you is that the Dodgers and Yankees have owners willing to spend, more money. But I also think, that they've created, like, why did Shohei Ohtani pick the Dodgers, right? It's like, it's kind of seen as like he gifted his talents to them. And in some ways, especially in the way that he structured his contract, he did. But he did that because he believed that the Dodgers were the team who were best suited to do what he did last night, which was win the World Series. And that's because they had put in the work over the previous, basically 10 years of establishing himself as the gold standard, in the sport. So it's not so much, it's like they put the resources into their R&D departments, their analytic departments, their scouting departments. Both these teams have very robust scouting departments. It's not just like Google spreadsheets. And they use that to gain an advantage. And when there are other teams who are sort of looking for the same stuff, the Dodgers and the Yankees, and the Mets want to join this sort of class, they have more money.
Yeah. Well, listen, the Dodgers have more money. The Yankees spend the money. That's why they were there. Let's be serious. Yeah, the Pirates aren't going to follow the Dodgers script, right? Because Bob Nutting's not going to spend what
Right.
Stan Kasten and Hal Steinbrenner spends on talent. So
Yeah, but they
to.
could get Kopech, they could get Edman. I know they can't get Yama.
They could have, but listen, the reason these two teams were here ultimately is because they both had depth and they both had enough people to keep shuffling through to get there. Now, my question is, what does the future hold for the Dodgers? I mean, this seems like a team that is set up for not only this year, but with what Shohei did, Yamamoto, all the guys returning. I know Buehler, I know Kershaw are question marks, but you've got Glass now locked up. You've got Yamamoto locked up. You've got all these guys returning. Gonsolin, we've gone through the list 100 times. There's 20 starting pitchers returning, right? You got Betts, you got Shohei, you got Mookie,
Mm-hmm.
you've got Muncy, you've got Will Smith, you've got all these guys locked up. What does the future hold for the Dodgers? I mean, are we looking at a Yankees, 5 titles in 7 years, a Giants 3 titles in 5 years? Are we looking at one of those dynasty runs here for the Dodgers?
Well, what Shohei Ohtani said to Andrew Friedman last night was like, okay, 9 more. He's got 9 more years there, and he'd like to win 9 more titles. I mean, Ohtani is a man who wants everything, essentially. And look, is that going to happen? I'll take the under. But they are certainly as well situated as they've been in quite some time. There's some stuff that they're going to need to do, roster wise. I think their pitching situation is really fascinating because they have a ton of guys on their roster who they need to carry, who it's kind of unclear just what their availability is going to be. Like, what is Ohtani going to look like as a pitcher next year? Can Yamamoto adjust to the American schedule, or will they just have a 6-man rotation with him and Ohtani? Clayton Kershaw would like to come back. What will that look like? He has a player option. They should offer Walker Bueller, the qualifying offer, if only as just like a thank you for what he did for them during this run, and also they can definitely afford it. They're doing an autopsy of their pitching dev department this winter to kind of figure out why so many of their young arms are breaking, and so there's a lot of stuff under the hood that they need to do. But yeah, you listed all the players. Like, the team is on the field. Like, the team you saw last night, they have every reason to be back in that spotlight for the next 3 to 4 years at least.
Results on the field matter. Obviously, we saw Shohei get hurt on that slide. Was he more hurt than we think or know, or that they were saying, or was it just he didn't show up in the World Series?
I wouldn't describe it as not showing up. I mean, I think he was pretty physically compromised. It was, you can just see it. I mean, I don't know. He kind of like when he swings and misses, he kind of often winces, like, and he kind of like looks at his bat. And he's like, "How dare you betray me?" Like he seems to just have such a mastery of what he's doing that anytime he doesn't succeed, he seems confused. But I do think, in talking to Dodgers people, like he was pretty significantly compromised. And their hope was that a compromised Shohei Ohtani, 75%, 80%, whatever you want to put, even 60% is still quite valuable in that he's going to be standing in the batter's box. He's going to be able to like take a walk, as he did in game 3, which, he scored a run on Freddie Freeman's home run. So yeah. And again, like, did he show up? Did he not show up? No one's going to care because they won. That's the whole thing. That's the deal with all of this is like if Max Muncy, I don't know if he had a hit in the World Series. No one cares. Like he was the third baseman for the team that won, and he was a huge reason they got there. That's just the nature of it. Like is it necessarily fair to the athletes that that's kind of how the narrative works? No, but my opinion is like that's kind of what the money's for, right? Is like you get paid, you get compensated handsomely, especially these guys who are at the top tier, and you get judged to a different standard, and that's just part of the business of the game.
Okay, first of all, Shohei chased way more than he ever had. So I mean, I know he was injured, but he
Yeah.
he looked like it was the first time he had played in huge situation because the Angels, remember, he had never played in the postseason before. So you get to the World Series, it's New York, it's LA. He just looked like he, kind of like what Judge went through, right? Judge kind of figured it out, but he's had so many more opportunities. So
Yeah.
yes, I know Shohei was injured. He just looked like he was trying too hard. It happens to everybody. I get it.
Yeah, and I wonder, AJ.
And second of all, Muncy did not have a hit either because I know
Yeah.
he was 0 for 16 because I bet on him every damn day to get a hit, and he freaking left me hanging the whole World Series. Max.
Well, AJ, I'm just curious, like from your perspective, right? I'm sure there's tons of times you went out on the field, right, where you were not 100%. Like, is it possible that you were overcompensating to work through that? Like, I don't know if you can totally separate it, right? Like, you might be expanding
to
the
zone.
zone.
Like for me, I swung at everything anyway. So expanding the zone, I mean, you would have to throw it off the top of the net for me not to swing it. Okay, so it's a little bit different. But for me, I was a left-handed hitter, and it was much more important for my right shoulder. If my right shoulder hurt, that was like they were talking about his finish. Well, your back arm really has nothing to do with your finish because you let go, right? So you swing and you let go, and this shoulder kind of stays here. I mean, you're like whoa, right? So to me, it just looked like it was an aggravation for him. I know he was holding his shirt when he was running. I mean, I never. Let me say this: I will never ever question a player's pain tolerance because everybody is different with that. And, I know he was hurt, and I know it was bothering him, but I just thought he got outside of his zone. And listen, they still won, so nobody will remember that he was hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a hit. All they remember is that the Dodgers won, and that's it. Now, Andy, I got to ask you this before we let you go. Who is your book about? The book you wrote that you haven't a copy of yet. Who was your book about?
It was about Clayton Kershaw.
Okay, so I have a new cover idea for you for the second edition. So this is what you should put on the cover next time. Look at that thing. That is championship quality body right there. And if that's not the Dodgers, like one of the memes of all time for the Dodgers, I don't know what you could do.
Yeah, as someone who accidentally walked into a Bob Nightingale photo last night looking like the Homer Simpson meme, I can, look, sometimes the camera catches you not at your best angle. It is what it is.
Listen, I'm not body shaming at all. It's just funny that, you look at Clayton Kershaw and you think like, man, this dude's, 30, mid-30s, he's going to be shredded. And then why did he have his shirt off? Like what point was he like, man, I'm going to rip my shirt off for this?
It's functional strength, you work on what matters is, the arm. And what matters is, this is all fuel for the furnace. Yeah, the dancing, I can't defend the dancing. He's got to come on the show to talk about that. That's above my pay grade.
Right, that's a different book. Andy, thank you. Appreciate the time. Follow Andy at by McCullough. If you don't already, check out the book. You can get it wherever you get your books. Appreciate you, Andy. Happy off season, man.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one, guys.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.